How do? So, while you've been away, I clamped up the fretboard.
That was fun!
So that's glued onto this neck blank now, which means we can do the fancy carving bit, which there was quite a few comments on, being a little bit worried about carving a plywood neck and possible sections splitting off and things like that. Don't worry, I have a cunning plan. But before that, let's trim off some of this excess. Top tip for cutting things level. Rough cut plywood neck. Now, I've had a lot of people comment on the previous video about how to carve this plywood neck, worrying about all the sections splitting off the sides. So, two things that I want to tell you about, because I've used a lot of plywood before. Firstly, we've got to think about the grain orientation of the wood. And yes, in plywood, you can see that sometimes the grain orientation goes that way, and the next layer goes that way. But of course, that's not the full picture. We also have these layers that go sideways on. So, more importantly than which way the actual grain's going, these layers are going to help us to direct how we cut and what we're going to do. Now, you've probably seen me in the past using a hand plane on plywood. It works brilliantly well. You really can use plywood very similar to all other types of wood, which means most tools work the same way as well. For example, the fantastic Shinto saw rasp. If you haven't got one, go and get one. This will work on plywood, but you've got to think about what you're doing. If I push that way on that leading edge, all of these fibers here will probably snap off pretty straight away, almost instantaneously. So what you've got to do is make sure that you're always pushing one fiber up against the next layer. So if you go like that and push that way, it will push that layer into that layer and everything will be fine. If I go down like that, there's nothing supporting the outer layer and it will just snap off. No problem whatsoever. Tentatively, just to prove a point, there you go. So straight away you can see there how that just wants to chip off because there's nothing supporting that edge. If you've watched any of my videos from the very first one a few years ago, you may have noticed a little chunk of plywood in the corner of my workshop. Look down here. See this little guy here? This is chunks of plywood glued together to make a rocking horse. Now this is one that I started years ago and never got round to finish. I have done a few of these before. Don't they look very pretty? But all of the shaping, all of the manipulating of lines is all done with one of my favourite tools, the wonderful Mr. Fantastic finger sander. So that's the tool I'm going to use to carve this neck. I'm still going to do those quarter lines all the time where you just take off triangles until you've effectively got a round bit. I'm sure you've seen the process before, but instead of using a rasp or a file or a spoke shave or whatever, I'm going to use the finger sander just because it's different. It does mean PPE though, which sucks a bit. There we are. Obviously that's not final sanded and polished and all the rest of it, but that is a neck carved in under 20 minutes. Not bad at all. Come back next week for body time. Yes, we're going to be cutting out 1,000,000 of these to make the walls of the body and somehow figuring out how to attach it to that. I haven't quite got that sussed out yet. There may also be middle sections that you can buy to help support the leukemia charity in memory of our good friend Jurgen Zola. So come back because there's going to be something a bit special with those.
That was fun.
Watch this. See you later. God bless.